some might say. But I can tell you right now that the United Kingdom is definitely no paradise. But we'll worry about that when the time comes. Phone's trying to fall over. I will be waiting for some people to come in, as per the usual, and then we will get the show on the road. But just mention some nonsense while I'm at it. I went to see the Wolverine Deadpool film yesterday with some friends. Same friend, actually, who took me down to London on the 27th of July. And then spent the rest of his time with a friend of his to do some shopping. But I do want to talk about what's been going on as far as these protests are concerned. But as I said, I'll wait until we've got more people involved. And in the meantime, I'll just put some more of these bottles in recycling bags, or I designate as recycling bags. But I hope everyone is doing well. We'll give this another half a minute and then we'll start. But I have a feeling that things are going, yeah, it's getting scary. Exactly, Chris. But we'll worry about that in the next half a minute, yeah? Things are getting scary, but there's just so much we need to talk about as far as all these protests are concerned, because they're happening all over the place. I don't think I've ever seen such a shitstorm in all my life, all my 33, coming up to 34 years in my life. All right. So, as we all know, as far as everything from Watchport and what have you is concerned, hello there, Vanda. Southport, we obviously saw the death of 3 children, with children still fighting for their lives, adults still fighting for their lives, after Axel Rudakabana, or whatever his bloody surname is, ended up brutally stabbing people. And ordinary people, quite understandably, took to the streets, concerned, and started protesting. Some of these protests got violent. Now, whether it's because these people have genuinely had enough, or if they were hijacked by the supposed far right, or some people who are genuine thugs and basically want any excuse to fight, well, some of it will be, some of it won't. Well, I don't know the whole ins and outs of all these protests. I don't know if all of these protests are being hijacked. What I do know, though, is that we can clearly see that anarchy is descending on the United Kingdom. But here we have our establishment and two-tier Kier the traitor Starma basically trying to blame the far right. And basically trying to blame Tommy Robinson for it. The media, who wasn't here, was government, chicken feet. You want to argue to the immigrants, so you attack the immigrants when really matter. What? Who wasn't here? Oh, if I was right, sorry. I almost read that wrong. Almost started having a go at you. Jesus Christ, that was close. But anyway, I hope you're doing well, YLI and a working world. It's all kicking off. Yeah, exactly. What we're seeing is anarchy. We are seeing British people who have woken up to the idea and the reality that two-tier Kier doesn't give a shit about patriots. Doesn't give a shit about patriots, British people, children, and afternoon Gold Mario. But we're seeing more and more people who want answers, quite frankly. They want answers, they want a solution, they want the problems to be resolved, they want basically all this shit to end. And the Muslim Defense League have been attacking protesters. Yes, I have heard of that, actually, because I have been paying attention to a lot of the vids that have been going around. Paul Thorpe, Expaz49, Richard Inman, Tommy Robinson, Mark Toozy, obviously just to name a few. But I'm seeing more and more YouTubers who I've not heard of before, who are coming out of the woodworks, who are coming out and calling this shit out for what it is. Joe Vlogs. But anyway, the Muslim Defense League is something I guess I should really touch upon more than anything, because it's basically an affront to everything that is wrong with this country. We had the English Defence League like 10, 15, 20 years ago, but they ended up disbanding because Tommy Robinson basically completely disavowed the far right, which the media will never tell you about or admit. How sad is it that Tommy Robinson had to go out of his way to mask his name, to then go on to LBC to speak to Majid Nawaz to tell them that basically they left the EDL because they disavowed the far right? How sad is that? What's even more sad is people aren't even accepting it. That's what's really sickening. People realize that he's left, but they won't accept it. Prof. Jens Kerlindsey, Little Island, who is upset about Brexit. To be honest, I generally don't pay attention to a lot of NPCs. I'm not saying you are. I'm saying the people that you're mentioning are. Same thing's happening in the US. It will get back. It will get back come November. I think you're probably right at the end of the day. I think what we're seeing is the collapse of globalist agendas. We've seen the assassination attempt on Trump. We've seen the constant slandering of ordinary patriots. We have seen the deaths of children in our own country. And we've seen uncontrolled immigration destroy our lifestyle, our cultures, our society, our way of life, and effectively everything that makes Britain great. Hello there, Stephen. But Kier is obviously more interested in his socialism agenda, because that's what he is. He's a socialist prick, put simply. He is a socialist prick who we should have seen this was what he was going to do, that he was going to send his little Stasi out and give them new powers to say, you can disperse protests. What he's doing is effectively trying to silence political opposition, whether it's through stopping these protests or whether it's allowing the boats to come in through the shores and basically replace old Whitey with the third world shithole death cultists. And I'm not going to apologise for saying any of that shit, because that is effectively what it is. Kier Starma is importing the third world. But of course, the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. The signal was shocking. It shouldn't be shocking, considering I've had it in this place the same as always. I don't know what's going on. I think it might be the lefties trying to interfere with it again, because at the end of the day, they don't want us to be able to speak what's going on. You'll notice sometimes it'll cut out at random. It doesn't usually do that. And there have been live streams where I've had absolutely no problems with it, when I haven't really been talking about some of the more prominent issues that YouTube and the other NPCs like to try and block, because effectively they don't want the truth getting out. That's what it comes down to. Like, as soon as you mention anything that goes against the mainstream, Islamic immigration, Islam in general, the attacks on our children, the fact that we have traitors running in our country, usually that's when they try to block the signal. Tony Blair's to blame for all this. I wouldn't say he's completely responsible for this. He is responsible for a big part of it, but we've got more people who are continuing his legacy. Because after all, Tony Blair was ultimately kicked out of power at the end of the day. Whereas we've got two-tier Kier, who hasn't even been in power for more than 5 weeks, and he's already threatening to destroy our country. He is effectively trying to destroy our country from the inside out. And as you said, Stephen, ECHR is a part of the problem as well, because we need to get ourselves away from the courts that say, well, you can't deport him because of their human rights. Do you think we give a shit if they go around murdering people about their human fucking rights, ECHR? Do you think so? I'll tell you what, I think a lot of us would be like, if they got and stabbed someone, fuck their human rights, quite frankly. Like, I think any country with common sense would be like that, while protecting Muslims. Exactly. What we find is that these protests around the country, because it's now not just Southport or London, it's happening every fucking where. Portsmouth, Plymouth. It's happening all over the country now. People are fed up. People are realizing that Kier, two-tier Kier, is putting the Islamic community first and fuck all the British, put simply. They may not like that, the way I've worded it, but that is the truth at the end of the day. That is the cold, bitter truth, the bitter pill they need to swallow. Just going to continue. I've hit that limb. Yeah, exactly. It's going to keep going until two-tier Kier reads the fucking room and takes a hint and realises that this migration is not what we want right now. This is going to continue. And as I've said before, and I will make this absolutely clear, as I always do, without fail, I don't advocate for the violence that's going on. I don't advocate for a violent revolution around our country or revolutions around our country. But I completely understand the anger of the British people. That's what it comes down to. Hello, Suki. Nice to see some new faces in here. Hope you're all right. That's what it comes down to. We, the British people, expect the British government to do, believe it or not, what's best for the British people. Not what's best for Tom, Dick and Harry and Ali Shakti, as I wrongly pointed out, over in fucking Africa or whatever. The Prime Minister's first and foremost priority is to their own damn land and their own people in said land. Kier, though, has effectively said, fuck the British people, fuck the United Kingdom. That's what he's done. He's sticking two fingers up at us, whether this way, or he could do it in both for all I care. But it doesn't change the fact that this traitor, because that's what he is, this traitor is prioritising protecting the enemy over protecting their citizens. There are most young chaps who wouldn't even know the difference between left and right. You probably are right on that, because a lot of these people haven't been in politics for long enough to understand what the problem is. Like, I know I look like I've got a fucking baby face, except for the whiskers here. Except for the whiskers here, and I look like I could be like 20, 21 years old. Like, ironically, I've got the looks of someone who makes a good fucking NPC, don't I? But jokes aside, a lot of these people have not been in the politics long enough to understand what core issues are causing the problems and what really we should be doing. As I've said before, I agree with Richard Inman, Tommy Robinson, Paul Thorpe, Martuzzi, etc., that we probably should be doing this peacefully. My problem is, I don't think it's going to happen quick enough. It's not happening quick enough. That's the cold bit of truth. I think at most we've got like 6 to 12 months. And after that, the country's going to go to shit in a handbasket very quick. Because Kier, at the end of the day, is pushing for a fascist government. I know it's a word. Paz will be on your side. Yeah, exactly. Because me and him, Angry Bootneck is another person. We all think alike. We all think alike. And I think we've only got like 6 to 12 months because their fascist government is going to effectively, it's like when you're kneading dough. They're basically kneading the dough, in this case, our country, to the way they want it, get that bread ready, stick it in the oven, turn it on, pull it out, however long later, and there you go, you've got a baked loaf. Or in this case, he's going to have baked this fucking country. put simply. We're too soft. Yeah, we are. I know I've said in the past, especially when I was a lot younger, when I was a bit more impulsive than I am now. I still have a problem with it, but when I was much younger, I understood the problem entirely, and I understood we can't go in with kid gloves. We need to stop using these, unless you're taking stuff out of the oven. Anyway, we need to take that off, and we need to put an iron glove on. An iron fist is what we need. The Christophobia. Yes, on it, and the Anglophobia, that as well. Because that's what's ironic, because a lot of these lefties will basically use that against us and say, oh, we're Islamophobic, oh, we're racists. But it's just projection. Hope you save the country. So try and save ours. Across the pond to prayers. Nice to see you as well. Devote is Guignon. I can't even pronounce the name, but I hope you're all right. As that myself, I blame the fish. Stop it. Stop it. But in all seriousness, this isn't going to get better if we keep being soft. It's only going to get worse. It's going to get much, much worse. And here's the problem. Yes, we need to have it get worse so that the 90% of the population that are fast asleep wake up. Just on what we're covering. Basically, I'm trying to give an overview of what's going on as far as the protests across the country is concerned, because there's been a lot more of them as far as I understand. I think there's been more in Downing Street, there's been more in Portsmouth, I think there may have even been one in Plymouth if I recall correctly. There was one, was it Stoke? I know there was one where there was basically some jihadis going around with machetes and swords and baseball bats trying to effectively stab and kill everyone, or kill anyone that gets in their way that is against the globalist narrative. But Starma needs to leave the churches alone. He does. I mean, the man is, as I said, an unequivocal traitor. He's a snake. He's a scumbag. I see YouTube is deleting more comments. Speaks for itself. And we have platforms like YouTube that are basically trying to censor anybody that is speaking against the current narrative. We have people who are being suppressed for their points of view. And I know YouTube will use the excuse, we don't allow hate speech. No, a lot of this is not hate speech. A lot of this is people who are genuinely concerned with their country. Likewise to that traitor, Kier Starma. Why is Starma a traitor? Well, he's putting the Islamic community before British people. When he was in Southport, he only stayed there for about an hour at most, just to put some flowers down, and then he fucked off. He left the kids who were dead, and those who were mourning effectively left. Point of view was being expressed when they burned down the library. Is this the British people burning the library, or is this the Islamic people doing it? Because if it's the Islamic, well, either way it's bad. But at least if it's Islam, it's a bit more understandable because we realise that they're basically intolerant of us. But I'll condemn it regardless. That's the way I slice it. Less than 2 minutes. Yeah, that's the thing. Starma doesn't care about the British people. He only said his little speech just so he could get the keys to 10 Downing Street. And as I made a joke about in the past, what do you call a politician sprinting into the houses of treachery? I mean Parliament. Or even 10 Downing Street. Or maybe I was right first time. A running joke. That's what he is. In fact, he's not even a running joke. He's the fucking circus at this point. If he honestly thinks by imposing powers to the police to disperse protests and by siding with Islam, because I don't say Muslims, because Muslims would imply a lot of people there are peaceful and they're being oppressed and all that. No, let's call it for what it is. Muslims need to start calling out the extremists. That's what they need to do. I know people will speak about, what about the moderate Muslims? What about these people who don't usually do anything like harmful to our country. Like, I have no problem with the people who are in this country who want to contribute. I've made that clear before. But if moderate Muslims are not going to call out the extremists like they would expect us Christians to call out the extremist Christians in our culture, then I'm sorry, but there are no good Muslims, quite frankly. Because they are responsible. The Islamic community is responsible for looking after its own community and exposing the extremists in their community, just like we're responsible for exposing the extremists in our own. That's the way I slice it. And if they're not going to call them out, they're basically complicit with radical Islam. And this is what Kier the traitor Starma is basically protecting. He's protecting Islam. That's material. Birmingham 1, 30 with a toaster. Don't know what you want about, but okay. Kier's putting illegal immigrants and immigration before you... Exactly. That's exactly what it is. He's putting them and the illegals and, of course, the Islamic community before his own people. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head if it was like 65 million people in the UK or something. But what I do know is that Kier Starma is effectively deploying sectarianism as well by protecting one section of Britain, the Islamic community. He didn't mention anything about the attacker who killed the kids at Southport. He didn't mention anything about the Mullah Rices who went over to that Manchester airport and started beating the shit out of cops. He made no effort whatsoever to actually do even like 5 minutes research to understand what the hell's going on here. Because if he did do his research, do you really think he'd be saying the things he is? Something tells me not. The way I look at it is that man is lazy, irresponsible, and dangerous. I'm willing to say that. That man is a danger to the British public while he's in 10 Downing Street. 27 countries laughing at Starma who doesn't even know what a woman is. Yeah! A person who doesn't know what a woman is as well, that's another good point. Who, well, to be fair, a lot of Labour can't do that. I mean, take a look at Sadiq Khan. I mean, he's a prime example of that shit. But I digress. What this boils down to is that Kier is willing to let his country burn. He is willing to let his country go to hell in a handbasket. And what is a woman? Well, I guess I've got a banging set of tits here myself. So I could be a woman as well for all I know. So there you go. No, but in all seriousness, a woman is supposed to be the opposite sex of a male that is effectively born with a pair of knockers up here and the thing downstairs and is able to produce children on this planet. But hey ho. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. You know, you've got to inject a little bit of comedy at the end of the day because you have to laugh, otherwise you cry. And we need some good old-fashioned morale boosting. That's the way I look at it. Adult, human, female, exactly. Now I just need to get my certificate changed, and then I've got my whole gender ideology done. No, no, I'm not doing that, because I have common sense. I know I'm a male, and last time I checked, there are only 2 genders. But I digress. This isn't about gender ideology. What's a better Prime Minister than Kier to be up? Yeah. He was better than Kier Starma in that regard, because at least Boris Johnson understood that we wanted Brexit and is not trying to get us to rejoin the EU. He's better than Kier Starma in that he is not trying to impose new tyrannical laws on this country. Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Very good. Anyway, he is a man, who, as I watched those speeches he gave, I didn't see conviction of a man who stands by his country. Do you know what I saw? I saw 2 stone cold dead eyes. I saw a man who has no passion, no ambition, and effectively evil intentions for this country. Nigel Farage is good. Yeah, I do think Nigel Farage would have been good as a prime minister. Unfortunately, he is going to be the best prime minister we've never had, because at the end of the day, we don't have political and proportional representation. As long as we continue this first past the post shit, Nigel Farage is never going to get a significant voice. And do you think Kier Starma is going to change that system for even a fraction of a second? Like fuck is he? He's about as interested in changing that as he is interested in protecting his own fucking constituents. We all know how it is. Hello there, Super J. How you doing? And everything gets into the EEC illegally, then wouldn't be in the mess Charles de Gaulle was what? Yeah. My boy, exactly. But at least this time I can safely say he was a Conservative and not a fucking Labour person. I still get annoyed with myself over that mistake. And yet, what's ironic is there were some videos which I put out which were far more important, and yet we had more people coming in to jump on the bandwagon to beat the shit out of me just because I called Edward Heath a fucking Labour person. Like, come on. And Cosplay has removed all the videos of our Muslim... What? Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, I did hear that Working Class was getting a lot of his videos restricted by YouTube. Because, effectively, YouTube has gone down the whole socialism and left-wing bullshit agenda themselves. Which is why we need places to go. Migrant hotel's been set on fire in Rotherham. Oh, shit. Well, I'm not going to condone it. I'm not going to condone them setting fire to that thing. I think that's fundamentally wrong. But I completely understand why they've done it. 100%. 100% I understand why they've done it. Because if the government's not going to take any action, what are the people left with? Like, the people, they turn their heads up to the government and say, what are you going to do about this? And when they come back down and say, fuck you, what are the people left off with? What are the people left with? They've got no other options. And as I've said many times before, when you make peaceful resolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. That's what we're seeing right now. We are seeing that quote made manifest across the country. All the anger recently been spurred on by what happened in Southport. Yes, it has. Because the thing is, Willoughby, is that if you go after us people, generally, that's one thing. And people will still be pretty pissed off. But at least you're not going after the kids. When you bring the kids involved, when the kids are involved in this violence and they're getting brutally killed by enemies of the state, and I'm not talking Tommy Robinson, I'm talking about, obviously, Islam, the illegal immigrants, etc., then there is a very big problem. Two-tier Kier. Yeah, I've mentioned that many times. Two-tier Kier the traitor Starma, whose father was a tool maker, and my fucking god did he make a tool in and of himself. And in and of Kier Starma. I think the only way this ends at this point is either a miracle comes out in that Kier is kicked out and maybe our main figureheads, they're not leaders so much, but they are, I guess the way to put them is they're kind of like the picture boys, if you will. They're the people that people look at and think they represent something. I'm talking Tommy Robinson. I'm talking Richard Inman. I'm talking about Maya Toosey. I'm talking about Paul Thorpe. I'm talking about Carl Benjamin, aka Sargon of Akkad. Or part of the Lotus Eaters, if you want to bring that in as well. But they see these people, we see these people as pictureheads, figureheads that effectively unite the kingdom. At the end of the day, the media and the government are looking at them and thinking they're the far right we need to deal with. Well, we're not far right. We're right so far. And what we see, Kier Starma, is you are completely incapable of reading a room and understanding that all of these issues have come about because of the fact of three main points. One, Islam is intolerant of our society. Two, illegal immigration has compounded the problems we've had in our country right now and is currently destroying our way of life, our economy, our communities, our societies. Our housing issues are a problem. Our NHS has become an international health service. And three is that you've showcased to us that you are about authoritarianism through socialism. Those are the three main points that are screwing this country. Yes, the Conservatives were fucking piss poor, and I would never have Rishi the Slippery Sunak in power again for as long as I've got a hole in my ass. But you know what? At least he wasn't directly saying, we're going to turn the fucking thumb on people. Jesus didn't marry a 9-year-old girl. Correct. That's the thing. They won't accept that this is their doing. They've been constantly pushing this thing as like, oh, it's all Tommy Robinson's fault. Oh, it's all their fault on the far right for all the problems we've had. No, it fucking isn't. The far right and Tommy Robinson is effectively their scapegoat. It's the easy cop-out for the government at the end of the day. This is what they do when they don't want to take accountability for their own treachery and their actions. Tommy Robinson did not open the doors to our country, or lower the drawbridge, or bring the boats over, or whatever expression you want to call. Army soldier stabbed. Yeah, he wasn't the person who got that army soldier stabbed. He's not the person who got those children killed in Southport. He's not the person that saw Lee Rigby killed, or Joe Cox killed, or whatever figurehead you want to bring into this. David Ames, who Sadiq Khan even had the absolute audacity to say when he was assassinated by a Muslim, had the audacity to say, oh, he passed away. But he won't dare say that if it was a Muslim MP. Guarantee that, 100%. And that's not a matter of racism. That's a matter of, that's just the kind of person Sadiq Khan is. Another traitor like Kier the traitor Starma. But the right is their go-to excuse as to why these things are happening. And while I will accept that there may be some elements who could be considered far right, there may be a few thugs, a few hooligans, a few rioters in there. The vast majority of the people who attended these protests were all doing it peacefully. They were saying, save our children, protect our children, rule Britannia. They weren't actively saying, oh, come on, boys, let's go and bomb that fucking police station. Let's throw a firework or two. Let's throw a fucking brick through someone's window. None of them were doing that. It was a few people who potentially hijacked it. Tommy invented the MDL. Are you saying that as... He didn't invent the damn thing, but I think when he was the former leader of the EDL... God, I feel like I should use the expression because I feel like I'm going to turn into a fucking BBC News presenter. You know, that kind of shit. But I do think that he was indirectly responsible for the MDL coming out. And I think the MDL came out as a response to the EDL, quite frankly. Because, let's face it, you know, where Lucy Letby murdered all their babies? Yeah! I mean, to be fair, that point is also completely reprehensible. And I still have the same response to that over Lucy Letby killing those kids as I do to that basically that Muller Rice going out of his way, or even if he isn't, It's inspired by Islam. You can't deny that. But I'd had the same response to her as I would to Axel Rudakabana. That's the way I look at it. I never really mentioned Lucy Letby in any of my videos. Maybe I should have done, for all I know. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be some white people who are just literal trash. Just like how there are Islamists that are literal trash. And the Bible knows exactly. John Major, I have no idea about that. I don't know about Major and Thatcher too much, so I can't really say too much on it. But the bottom line in all this is, all these protests are happening because not only are children being stabbed and we don't feel safe in our own country on the streets, but now we know that Kier is prioritizing the very same people who are going out of their way to stab everyone. And let me be absolutely clear. I am not advocating for anybody to go out and commit acts of violence, vandalism, criminal damage, looting, whatever. I'm not advocating for that. What I am saying, however, is that Kier cannot keep blaming the far right for all these problems. Because at the end of the day, these are problems in his fucking lap, not ours. He is responsible. The Labour government and the Tory government, full of traitors, are responsible for keeping those borders open and allowing that flood of foreign invaders to come to our country and destroy our societies. Now, of course, any of those who have come in, who came in to genuinely contribute to society, who genuinely care about our society, who genuinely want to be British, that's the thing. The names, oh good grief, you're making me think now. I think there was Kelly, I think there was Ava. The trouble is, I'm trying to remember so much shit that for every bit of useless information I get, a bit of useful information goes out. I could probably, I will look it up, don't you worry about that. But the way I slice it, it's the centre right calling you the far right. Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter what we think, because the media is always going to label us as far right regardless. They love to project, though. It's like a legendary art that I've often said Chinese, but I do that as a meme, because you would expect like the Grand Masters to be like that. But I digress. They will keep using that term of far right because they don't have anything else to go with. That's all they've got. They have nothing else outside of that. And as I said, the problems fundamentally come down from the top of the government. What is my definition of far right? My definition of far right, as in the actual far right, is people who believe in white supremacy, who believe that all other races are inferior, that do not care about other races, and effectively have this form of Nazism akin to Adolf Hitler. That's the way I look at far right. And do you see any of that as far as those protests are concerned? Not really. You don't see that. What you see is people who are looking for any excuse to fight if it's like a small group of people in those protests. But the vast majority of us who are out there protesting against all this shit are peaceful protesters who are probably more centre than anything. Why should we care about other races? Well, the way I look at this is I care about the races that come over here that want to be part of our culture. That's the way I look at it. People who want to integrate with our society, people who want to be British, people who want to pay in taxes and what have you. The way I look at it is that if you want to be British, it doesn't matter what the colour of your skin is. It doesn't matter whether or not that you are Christian or not, as long as you respect our beliefs, our society, our values, LCBB and Alice. I see. But as long as you're willing to respect our society and way of life, it shouldn't really matter. I'm not going to say somebody isn't British just because they're black, or just because they're a Hindu, or because they're a short stack of like 4'6". But I will say this much. Look, as some of these people are rightly saying in the comments, we need to look after our own people first. And we don't see Kier Starma doing that. Sorry, Kier the Traitor Starma. I think there's a nice little spot for Kier the Traitor Starma. It involves a platform where two people usually come up beside him, holding his arms, lead him up the stairs, and just along the top there's a large bar and there's bits of rope hanging down. I'm sure I don't need to go any further than that. But if anybody doesn't know, he's a traitor, he should be charged with treason, and he should hang, quite frankly. Because he has basically put our enemies before his friends. And nobody is ever going to change my mind on that shit. Nobody. Kier Starma effectively wants to destroy our country. We need to start procreating, as some people have said, as Martusi had said in those two protests on the 1st of June and the 27th of July. We need, I guess that means I need to go out more and find a girlfriend, I guess. Gotta find a girlfriend somewhere. Because also Islam has also made a point as well that says their greatest weapon is the woman's womb. Make of that what you will. Make of what? Yeah. Have a wife. And that kind of stuff. Yeah. But we need to fight this fight, unfortunately. We need to fight this. I prefer it if it was in the correct way, peacefully. But I think if we don't deal with this in 6 to 12 months, I think the peaceful resolution option is going to be gone. And I know it will mean, and people will say, oh, but they'll bring in the army. But the thing is, a lot of the army also don't like what the government's doing. They don't like the fact that there's all this wokery and putting enemies before its own patriots. I think a lot of them would turn on their own government, quite frankly. And I think a lot of it will come down to they will see who the real traitors are, who the real enemies are. And I think the guns that are pointed on us will get turned onto the establishment. Those are my honest beliefs. But I've spoken enough, I think. All I'll say is, Kier Starmer's got two choices at this point. He either starts reading the fucking room, closes the borders, sorts out the immigrants in our country illegally and takes out the trash, and makes sure our country is putting our own people first, or these riots will continue, which I do not advocate for, but at the end of the day, I understand why these people are doing it. They're doing it not out of hatred, not out of being malicious, not out of spite, not out of wanting to remove a certain sect of people. It is being done because they care for their kids and they don't want their kids growing up having to fight the war that we have to fight ourselves. Close the borders. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. And wherever you are in the world, I wish you all a good morning, afternoon, or evening. And I will see you all in the next one. Hopefully, things will change. I'm not justifying any criminal behavior, by the way, Khan. I've said, and I will be very clear on this, since you brought this up before I've ended this, I have said countless fucking times. So that's, now your true colours are showing up. Time to take out the trash. Bye. So, I'll explain this to Khan, since he wants to be an NPC about it. I am not advocating for any violence, any violent revolution, looting, criminal damage, you name it. I've even said it earlier in this fucking stream. I don't advocate for it, but I completely understand why these people are doing it. Next time, Khan, listen. Use your God-given ears and pay a fucking attention. Or you'll just be made to look like a complete fucking idiot. Thank you for watching, guys. Sorry about that. I wish you all a good morning, afternoon, or evening, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye for now.